Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
We continue our Packers training camp storyline series as we are just 1 week away from the first practice for the Packers, and we've covered a bunch of different positions, topics, and such. And today, I kind of want to take a look at the linebackers, the linebacking group. Quay Walker, Isaiah McDuffie, Edgerrin Cooper is on there. You know, those are going to be kind of your base starting linebackers, right? If they're in a typical 4-3 base, and I know it's mostly nickel now, but those are your, shall we say, top three. Then you got Isaiah Simmons, who was a free agent signing, a former first round pick, and then you've got Hopper, who was a round 3 pick last year by the Packers. So I would call this an intriguing group of linebackers. And we can start with, we might as well start with Edgerrin Cooper, who's entering his sophomore year. But this is a guy that is coming in with a ton of excitement. I don't want to say hype, because I feel like that kind of makes it almost give the impression like, oh, he's a little right. No, not that. But there's definitely a lot of excitement surrounding him coming into this season, considering what we saw from him last year. We saw a lot of good stuff from him last year. Like Edgerrin Cooper, for me, watching him last year, he just looked like easily the most instinctive linebacker on that defense. We mentioned it, a little bit earlier. 13 tackles for losses, leading the league in 13 tackles for losses, and that fits that just that instinctiveness that comes from him. I mean, he was just there was a play, I still remember it, and I remember talking about it last year, going up against the Vikings and Aaron Jones, and it looked like Aaron Jones had a wide opening, and all of a sudden there's Edgerrin Cooper, just filling the gap, filling the hole, and taking him down. And there was a lot of frustration from Aaron Jones, because I think he thought he had, a lot of green and a lot of space for a big gain, and there's Edgerrin Cooper just filling it up. But Edgerrin Cooper led all off-ball linebackers with 13 tackles for losses last year. Not to be a Debbie Downer or anything, but I mean, you do wonder, okay, how many times have we seen a sophomore slump? That's not for everybody. Not every sophomore has a slump, but it's always in the back of your mind. Hopefully that's not the case. Edgerrin Cooper apparently coming in with a lot more muscle without sacrificing the speed that he displayed last year. I'm excited. I'm really excited to see Edgerrin Cooper hit the field this year and what he can do for this defense. If he can be that game-changing player, that game wrecker. A lot of great defenses have those guys, right? A couple of those guys on their defense. You could say Xavier McKinney's one of them for the Packers. But if Edgerrin Cooper can be that game-changing linebacker, that wrecking linebacker, that feels like, how many times have we gone up against, whether it was like a Fred Warner or a Roquan Smith or any of those guys, or Bobby Wagner when he was with Seattle, and I know he's with Washington right now, but you know what I mean, like those game-changing linebackers that just like, gosh, we can't get away from them. They just keep making plays, and they're flying across the field and getting after quarterback or taking down the ball carrier in the backfield. If Edgerrin Cooper can be that guy, this defense takes another leap. And I think they're counting on him to be that guy. And they're counting on him to be a difference maker. If he can be that, boy, what a huge boost this would be for that defense. And and now going to Quay Walker, I think Quay Walker, he's got all of the athletic talent in the world. The physical traits are there. And I think he took a jump last year. He took some strides last year. But if he could just put it all together now, Because there was those stretch of games last year. It was the 49ers, the Dolphins, during that stretch where Quay Walker looked like finally, like, okay, that's the reason they drafted him in the first round. And the Packers love him. His teammates love him. I mean, Xavier McKinney has said it multiple times that he thinks Quay Walker can be the best linebacker in all of football. I mean, that's some serious high praise. It's just the biggest thing that has surrounded Quay Walker has been consistency. Can he be consistent? I think a lot of times he gets caught thinking too much instead of just reacting and playing football. But I'm really intrigued about what the duo of Cooper and Quay Walker could be, what it eventually could be, what it could become. Because those are two incredibly talented, physically gifted linebackers. And if it can all just kind of come together, boy, that would be a fun duo to watch for a few years. It really would. Isaiah McDuffie comes back on a contract, re-signing contract. I mean, just kind of a solid, consistent player. We saw some good stuff from him, and obviously is very comfortable in this Jeff Hafley defense. Boston College boy too, so a little familiar with Hafley for short stints when they were in Boston College. McDuffie also a special teams player in that, so a nice depth signing. I know there was some people like, ooh, that was, bringing back McDuffie for that contract. It's a nice depth signing to that, to add some more players at that position, because you look after that. You look, at the depth after that. I honestly don't know what we have with Hopper yet. Tyron Hopper, rookie last year, third-round pick in 2024. A little undersized at the linebacker position, but he's got speed, and it felt like last year was like, okay, that was a pick, to help out the special teams and maybe kind of grow into a linebacker position. But I mean, it's a third-round pick. So I'm curious to see him when we get to preseason, when we get to training camp. I want to see 59. When we get to these preseason games, I want to see 59 on the field and see, okay, from his rookie year to the sophomore year, is there that jump? Are we going to see that growth from him? Is this somebody that we're going to see on the field on the defensive side at all this year? Or again, is he mostly going to get his reps on the special teams side of things? Because we really didn't get to see a ton of him last year outside of special teams. So are we going to see more of an opportunity for him coming in here? And then you got Isaiah Simmons, former first-round pick coming over here. Again, kind of a little bit like a Tyron Hopper. You got a speed guy that, Giants tried him out a little, like the hybrid linebacker safety role. Simmons is coming in, though, strictly focusing on linebacker. That's what Jeff Hafley told him. We're just going to focus with you strictly at the linebacker position. He's a former top 10 overall pick by the Cardinals back in 2020. There obviously is some athletic traits to him. There's some physical athletic traits to him. I'm curious to see him, how he fits in this defense. His spot on the roster is not a guarantee. Just because he has a former first-round status to him from 5 years ago doesn't mean he's going to be a guarantee to make this roster. But you look at this group of linebackers, right? And it's definitely different than the good old days, not that long ago, when you had like the Blake Martinez's, the Jake Ryans and those linebackers. These are bigger, taller, faster linebackers now. I mean, we're talking about, Simmons, who's 6'4", about 240 pounds. You're talking about Quay Walker, who also is 6'4", 240-ish pounds. You're talking about Edrin Cooper, who is 6'2", but he's added some muscle, 6'2", so probably about 240 pounds with that speed. Hopper, 6'2", about 230 he's listed. We'll see if he's added any muscle or weight. But, we've added more speed, more athleticism the last couple of years in this linebacker department. And then bringing in Isaiah Simmons is part of that too. I'm intrigued with this group. I'm intrigued to see what Jeff Hafley can do. Now remember, they got a new inside linebackers coach. Anthony Campanelli out. He's with the Jaguars as their defensive coordinator. And I thought Anthony Campanelli was a big reason why we saw some strides with Quay Walker last year, why we saw some really good play from Edrin Cooper last year. So it's going to be interesting to see if that continues with a new linebacking coach, with a new linebackers coach on the staff. You hope to see that progression continue. Sean Duggan getting the job. He's entering his second season. He was an assistant last year, so it's not like a brand new voice coming in here. But he worked under Jeff Hafley as a linebackers coach in Boston College, so he has experience with that. Obviously, probably worked a little bit with the linebackers as a defensive assistant last year, so maybe there will be that continuity and continued that progression of improvement from some of these linebackers. This is a group, though, that I'm excited to see on the field this year because of the potential that is there with this group. It starts with Edrin Cooper. I think Edrin Cooper has the ability to be a game changer. I love, when Xavier McKinney says stuff about Quay Walker potentially being the best linebacker. We've seen it, we've seen him now for 3 years, 4 years, 3 years. What we see on the practice field from him, we got to see it in these regular season games now on a consistent basis. That's the biggest thing with Quay. What he does in practice, he practices great, he practices well. It's got to translate to the field in regular season games. But if he can do that, man, we got a duo here that's pretty darn good. And hopefully, if Isaiah Simmons, he can kind of turn his career around and he ends up making some plays, boy, that's an athletically gifted room. The potential is there. The potential is there with this group. And I'm excited to see it. I think this is a big, preseason. I don't know how much we're going to see of Cooper and Quay Walker for preseason games and such. But for Isaiah Simmons, and as we mentioned a little bit earlier, Hopper, this is a big preseason for those two guys. Simmons to try to earn that roster spot, but Hopper being a third-round pick last year, we got to see a little bit of a jump from him. He was a little bit raw when they drafted him. We got to see that jump in year 2. Definitely a position group that I'll be paying attention to quite a bit here in preseason and training camp.